At the company holiday party, my husband's secretary kept giggling and whispering to him. Suspicious, I went through his work calendar and found a recurring meeting titled Private Review Session. That night, I dressed up and walked into his office. I found them on his desk, half-dressed, giggling. My husband froze, and his secretary screamed, "You weren't supposed to be here." I smiled and said, "Neither were you." What happened next got her fired, and him humiliated. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. I've been debating posting this for weeks, but I can't stop thinking about it. I need to write it down. I'm 42. My husband, let's call him Mark, is 45. We've been married 18 years. We have 2 teenagers. We live in Chicago. Not a mansion, not a fairy tale, but a decent life in Lincoln Park. Or at least that's what I thought. Until December. Mark works in marketing at a firm downtown near the Loop. He's been there for almost 10 years. They do well. Corporate clients, flashy presentations, long hours. I always supported his career. I stayed home when the kids were little. I went back to part-time work recently. We had a good rhythm. I trusted him. He's always been the calm one. The logical one. The rock. I never thought I had to doubt him. Until the company holiday party. It was at the Drake Hotel this year. Beautiful place. Chandeliers, live jazz band, waiters carrying wine and tiny food. I wore the green velvet dress he said he liked. I spent way too long curling my hair, wanting to look good for him. Funny now, looking back. We walked in together. He kissed my cheek. He got whisked away by some clients. I mingled. Normal stuff. I was sipping a glass of red, chatting with one of the other wives when I saw her. Lisa. His secretary. She's maybe late 20s. Always wore bright lipstick and tight blouses, the kind with buttons that strained a little. I'd seen her once or twice before. At a firm picnic, and again when I dropped off Mark's forgotten laptop. Seemed polite. Friendly. A little too smiley, but I didn't think much of it. That night, she was glued to him. Every time I saw Mark across the room, she was there. Laughing at things he said. Standing way too close. Touching his arm. Whispering into his ear like they were sharing secrets. Once, she leaned over to fix something on his lapel and her hand lingered. I saw Mark smile in a way I hadn't seen in a while. My stomach turned. I asked him about it on the drive home. Casually. Lisa seems really enthusiastic about her job. He laughed. Said she was just friendly. Said she had a few drinks. Said I was reading into things. I let it go. For one day. But something was wrong. I could feel it. 2 days later, while Mark was in the shower, I did something I'd never done in 18 years. I looked through his work calendar on his laptop. I knew his password. We'd always shared access. No secrets. Right? Wrong. There it was. Every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Repeating for months. Private review session, conference room C. Always that exact wording. He never mentioned that meeting. Not once. He talks about work all the time, clients, pitches, long hours. Never these sessions. I clicked on one of the events. Lisa was the only other invitee. Something inside me broke. I sat there staring at the screen, trying to breathe. My hands were shaking. I couldn't think straight. I waited until he left for work, then I cried in the shower for almost an hour. I knew what it looked like. I just didn't want it to be true. But I needed proof. That Wednesday, I dressed in neutral office clothes. Slacks. Simple blouse. I told the kids I was running errands and made my way to his office downtown. I got to the front desk around 3:20. The receptionist, Sharon, I think, recognized me. She smiled. I said I had to drop off some papers for Mark. She waved me through. His office was on the 9th floor. I took the elevator. Every second felt heavy. I was sweating. My heart was thudding so loud I thought someone would hear it. The door to his office was cracked open. I heard giggling. Her voice. Then his. Low, amused. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard at home in years. I pushed the door open. They were on his desk. Her skirt was hiked up. His shirt was unbuttoned. They froze. She gasped. You weren't supposed to be here. Mark looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. I stared at them. And I smiled. Neither were you. I shut the door behind me and stepped inside. Lisa scrambled off him, grabbing her blazer and fumbling to cover herself. Mark stood up, stumbling over his words. Sarah, wait, I can explain. No, I said. Don't. I just wanted to see it with my own eyes. Lisa's face was beet red. This isn't what it looks like, she blurted out, clutching her purse. I laughed. Actually laughed. You seriously think that works? Mark tried to come closer. Please, can we talk? Somewhere private? Oh, you mean like your private review sessions? His face dropped. I looked at Lisa. You should go. She grabbed her things and ran out, heels clicking down the hallway. I turned to Mark. You. Sit down. He did. I stared at him. This man I shared a bed with. A life with. A home. The father of my children. And I didn't recognize him anymore. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. Not there. I just asked questions. How long? Since July, he mumbled. Every week? Yes. In this office? Yes. I nodded. Thank you for being honest. For once. He looked down. It didn't mean anything. Then why do it over and over again? Silence. I walked to the door. You'll hear from me when I'm ready to talk. Don't come home tonight. He didn't argue. I walked out of the building, straight into the cold Chicago wind. I stood on the sidewalk and stared at the traffic for a long time. I didn't know what I was doing next. I didn't know how to tell the kids. I didn't even know how to breathe properly. But I knew one thing, everything had changed. And I was not going to protect him from the consequences. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed with my sister in Oak Park. I barely said a word to her, just handed her the keys and told her not to ask questions yet. She made me tea and sat with me while I stared at the wall. I didn't sleep. The next day, my phone buzzed nonstop. Mark, please let me explain. Mark, I made a huge mistake. Mark, can we please talk in person? Mark, the kids are asking where you are. I didn't reply. I called Jake's school. Told them his dad would pick him up. I texted Emma and told her I was safe, that I loved her, and that I'd be home soon. She sent back, what's going on? I told her not to worry. I wasn't ready yet. Later that afternoon, I opened Mark's laptop. I still had the login. I went into his email. And what I found made my stomach flip. It wasn't just Lisa. There were messages to another woman, someone named Nina, who used to work in the same firm but now lived in Boston. Nothing recent, but the tone? Very familiar. Very flirty. The emails dated back a year and a half. A year and a half. While I was recovering from surgery. While I was bedridden, struggling to walk. He was out here acting like a bachelor with a company credit card. I went cold. Then I did something I didn't think I'd ever do. I sent an anonymous tip to HR. I included screenshots of the meeting invites. I mentioned Lisa's name. I said there was an ongoing inappropriate relationship involving a senior manager and his assistant, happening on company property, during work hours, using company resources. I didn't include my name. But I knew it wouldn't take long for the storm to hit. 2 days later, it did. Mark called me 6 times in a row. Then he texted, "Did you send something to HR?" I didn't respond. Later that night, my sister's doorbell rang. I didn't answer it, but she looked out the window and told me he was standing outside, pacing. I stayed in the back room. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Lisa. I didn't answer at first, but she left a voicemail. She was crying. "Hi, Sarah? I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ruin your life. I didn't know he was still sleeping with his ex-assistant. I didn't know about Nina. He said you two were just going through a rough patch. I didn't think he'd throw me under the bus like this. They fired me today." I froze. She didn't know. She thought she was the only one. She thought he loved her. She was just another name on the list. Mark hadn't told her about Nina. Of course he didn't. Why would he? Why ruin the fantasy? And now she was out of a job. But here's where things took a turn I didn't expect. The company's HR department launched a formal investigation. Apparently, Lisa wasn't the only one who'd had private review sessions with Mark. There was another assistant, 2 years ago, who quit suddenly and never gave a reason. She never filed a complaint, maybe she was too scared, or maybe she just wanted to move on. But now, with Lisa talking, things started unraveling. HR requested a statement from Mark. The board got involved. His boss, who I'd met a dozen times, called me personally. Told me he was deeply sorry for what I was going through and that they were taking things seriously. I asked one question, did he do this on company trips? There was a long pause. Yes. So this man wasn't just cheating on his wife. He was embarrassing the firm. Creating legal risk. And everyone was finding out. I heard through a mutual friend at the company that Mark had been asked to take an indefinite leave of absence. Code 4, we're pushing you out, but giving you a chance to resign. That same week, I got a message from Emma's friend's mom. She asked if I was okay. She said Emma had told her something was really wrong at home. I finally texted Emma and said I'd explain soon. But things weren't calm yet. That Saturday, Mark showed up again. This time, I opened the door. He looked like hell. Eyes bloodshot. He hadn't shaved. His voice cracked when he said, "Please, just let me talk to you." I stepped outside. Told him he had 5 minutes. He started crying almost immediately. Full on sobbing. Told me he'd screwed up everything. That he missed me. That he was so ashamed. That Lisa was a mistake. That Nina was just emails. That I was the only one he'd ever really loved. He said he was going to therapy. He said he wanted to save the marriage. I stood there, silent. Then I said, "What were you going to do if I hadn't walked in on you?" He had no answer. I said, "What if you gave Lisa an STD? What if she gave you one? What if I got sick because of your lies?" Still nothing. I said, "You weren't trying to save this marriage until you got caught. You weren't ashamed until it was public. And now you want to cry because you lost control?" And then I turned around and walked back inside. I locked the door behind me. My sister didn't ask what he said. She didn't need to. But I'll tell you this, something in me changed that week. Something broke. Or maybe something woke up. I wasn't the same woman anymore. After I shut the door in his face, Mark didn't come back. Not right away. I thought I'd feel powerful. Relieved. Like I had the upper hand now. But the truth is, I didn't feel anything. I felt numb. Like I was watching someone else's life play out. The days started blending together. I was just surviving. But things kept happening. The following Monday, I got a call from my son's school counselor. Jake had gotten into a fight. Punched a classmate. When they pulled him aside, he said the other kid made a joke about his dad and some secretary. The story had gotten out. At a private school, gossip spreads fast. I had to go in and sign a behavior report. Jake sat across from me in the counselor's office, red-eyed and furious. "You said you'd tell us when you were ready." "Well, I wasn't ready for some random kid to say dad's cheating on you." I broke down right there in front of him. We talked all night. I told him everything. I didn't sugarcoat it. He was old enough to hear it. Emma found out the same way. She didn't yell, but she said she didn't want to talk to Mark. She blocked his number. 2 days later, I got another twist I didn't see coming. A letter. Not an email. A real envelope with handwriting I didn't recognize. I opened it. Inside was a 3-page letter from Nina. Yes, that Nina. The woman from Boston. She said she heard about what happened through former colleagues. She said she was sorry. She said she didn't know about me either, not the real story. Mark told her he was emotionally separated, that we were living like roommates. She admitted they had met twice, once at a conference in Denver and once in New York. She said he paid for her flights both times. She also wrote, "He told me you were sick. That he needed someone who made him feel alive again." I sat there staring at that line for a long time. I was recovering from surgery when he said that. I was learning how to walk without pain again. I was going to physical therapy twice a week. I was still making dinner. Still helping with homework. Still folding his clothes. And that's how he saw me? As dead weight? I didn't cry this time. I called a lawyer. I wasn't ready to file yet. But I needed to know my rights. I needed to know what would happen to the house. The accounts. The kids. Everything we built together. I wasn't going to walk away empty-handed after nearly 2 decades. I also found out something else from the lawyer. There's a clause in Mark's employment contract about misuse of company funds for personal matters. Those hotel stays? Those flights? They weren't just unethical. They were grounds for termination. A week later, HR made it official. Mark was fired. No severance. No references. And then something really weird happened. Lisa reached out again. This time, not to apologize. This time, to warn me. She sent screenshots of messages from Mark. Recent ones. After she was fired. He'd been blaming me. Telling her I was vindictive. That I hacked his accounts. That I ruined his career out of spite. He told her I was mentally unstable. That I had always been jealous of his work relationships. Lisa wrote, "I thought you should see this. I've accepted that he played both of us. I lost my job, but at least I can start over. I hope you get peace too." Peace. What a strange word. Mark wasn't sorry. He was spinning. Lying. Trying to make himself the victim in his own disaster. And the worst part? Some people believed him. I found out he was telling friends that I blew things out of proportion. That Lisa was just a work fling. That I overreacted. The same man who cried on my sister's porch. The same man who said he wanted therapy. The same man who told me he wanted to fix everything, was now throwing dirt on my name because he couldn't handle what he did. But here's the twist he didn't see coming: Lisa wasn't the only one he betrayed at work. Turns out, another woman, a client, came forward. She said he had propositioned her after a meeting. Said he invited her to his hotel room and told her no one had to know. She declined. She thought it was gross. But when she heard about everything else, she came forward. The company was building a case. And now there's talk about revoking his credentials. He might never work in that field again. And I'm still standing. I'm angry. I'm exhausted. But I'm not broken. The kids are starting to talk to me again. Emma said, I'm proud you didn't just let him come back. Jake hugged me for the first time in weeks. And me? I'm starting to sleep again. I still don't know what the ending is going to be. But it won't be the one he expected. 3 weeks after I received Lisa's final message, the truth came crashing into the open. Mark's job was gone. His reputation? In shambles. Word had gotten around our community. Parents at the kids' school started whispering. I got polite nods in the hallways, then silence once I walked past. I stayed quiet through all of it. Until the school's annual fundraising gala. I didn't want to go. Emma begged me. Please, Mom. You don't have to talk to anyone. Just show up. So I did. I wore a simple black dress. I didn't glam up. I didn't smile much. I just stood near the back with a glass of water, watching the speeches. And then he walked in. Mark. In a suit. Alone. Hair too perfectly styled. Like he thought he could smooth over months of damage with a clean shave and a forced grin. People turned. A few nodded. But most looked away. He saw me across the room. Walked toward me like he had every right. Sarah, he said softly. I didn't move. I've been calling, he said. I know. He looked around. Then lowered his voice. You've turned our whole life into a war zone. I lost my job. I lost everything. I blinked. You lost your job. I lost my marriage. He scoffed. You just want to punish me. Then, louder than he should have, he said, you wanted me to fail. People turned to look. I didn't care. You chose to fail, I snapped. You thought you were untouchable. You lied. You cheated. And you made me the villain when you got caught. His voice cracked. I was drowning. You weren't there, you mean when I was recovering from surgery? When I was limping around the kitchen while you were in hotel rooms with assistants? Dead silence around us now. Parents stared. The principal looked uncomfortable. Emma stood in the corner, her mouth slightly open. Mark's face flushed. We could have handled this privately, no, I said, clear and firm. You handled it privately for years. Now everyone knows what it's like to be me. He shook his head, laughed bitterly. You never let anything go. You never gave me anything real to hold on to. He stared at me. And for the first time I saw it, realization. Not anger. Not pride. Just, the truth finally sinking in. He turned and walked out. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't even look at Emma. She walked over, grabbed my hand, and whispered, good. Let him go. That night, Jake came into my room, sat on the bed and asked, is he gone for good? I nodded. Good, he said. I don't want to keep pretending. People stopped whispering. They started talking to me instead of about me. One mom stopped me in the parking lot and said, I can't believe what he did. You're stronger than I'd be. I didn't feel strong. I felt tired. But I smiled and said, thanks. Lisa moved away. Last I heard, she was working in a smaller firm out in Milwaukee. She sent one last text, I hope life gets better for you. I mean it. Mark tried once more. Sent a long email. Said he was in therapy. Said he missed the kids. Said he wanted a second chance. I didn't respond. I filed for divorce 2 days later. No drama. No drawn-out courtroom mess. Just papers, signed and sealed. He didn't contest anything. The kids are still healing. Emma talks about it sometimes. Jake doesn't. But he hugs me more now. That's something. I wake up every morning in a quiet house. Some days, it feels empty. Other days, it feels peaceful. I started running again. My knees aren't perfect, but I run anyway. I started painting again, too. Nothing big. Just small canvases in the sunroom. Sometimes I lose hours just watching the colors blend. What have I learned? That love doesn't guarantee loyalty. That trust is fragile, but so is shame. That sometimes the biggest betrayal isn't the cheating. It's watching someone you gave everything to become a stranger. I don't know if I'll ever trust again. But I do know this, I survived. And I'm still here. Still standing. Still me.